What's going on, guys? John Kelly here, and today I'm going to talk to you about some pieces of gear that I'm just not going to be putting in my pack anymore. Hey guys, so glad that you decided to join me today. Happy first week of NFL. If you're a Browns fan like I am, I'm sorry. It's a rough life we live. But today I want to talk to you all about some gear that I'm not using it anymore. If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. When you get the chance, hit that notification bell that's going to be right down here. That will let you know anytime one of these videos drops, and hit the like button if you find any value in the video. So if you're like me, there's just a lot of gear that you get your hands on and you decide you want to give it a try, see how it does, take it out on some trips. You might use it for up to a year or two and then just be like, you know what, it's not working for me anymore. I think it's time to move on. And so today I want to talk to you about those items that I've just kind of stopped using. I just don't really have a use for them anymore, or I just really didn't like them all that much. The first item I want to talk about that I'm not using anymore are gaiters. Specifically, gaiters that go over your shoes. I'm not talking about neck gaiters or whatever you call them, buffs or face shields or whatever you want to call them. I'm talking about gaiters that you fit over top of your trail runners when you're out backpacking. For my entire Sheltowee Trace hike, I used these gaiters, and did they keep dirt out of my shoes? Maybe, but I didn't really notice it that much. As a matter of fact, when I quit using them, I never noticed a difference. I didn't see any more dirt in my trail runners than what I saw before, and I realized these just became a hassle after a while. You get up in the morning for a long day of hiking, 15 to 20 miles, and you've got to make sure you put these on after you put your socks on and before you put your shoes on. And what would happen with me is put my socks on, put my shoes on, and realize I forgot to put on the gaiters. And so it came down to that pivotal moment where, do I take off my trail runner, put on my gaiters, and then put my trail runners back on? Or do I just say, you know what? I'm not gonna use them this time. I'm gonna be honest, I'm just not gonna use them anymore. So for a long time, all I used was canister stoves. I used this BRS stove and this Pocket Rocket too. The BRS, super ultra light, gets the job done, but it takes a little longer to boil water. The Pocket Rocket 2 is bulletproof and it boils water quick. Both are great canister stoves, but I really wanted to try something different, and I decided I was gonna give alcohol stoves a try. And so I got on Amazon and I got these stoves here, and I did a video saying that this year I'm gonna move solely to alcohol stoves as often as I can. And so that's what I did. And since I guess I did one trip in February where I actually used the canister stove, since then I've used nothing but an alcohol stove the entire year, but I never used either one of these stoves. Instead, I've been using the Spaguyver Stove 2.0. Mark Orton, otherwise known as Spaguyver, created this little stove, and it weighs less than the BRS stove, which the BRS stove is only like 25 grams, and the bloom this thing gets, it boils water surprisingly fast. It weighs next to nothing, and I really like the ability to only bring the amount of fuel that I plan on using when I'm on a trip. When you're using a canister stove, you just kind of gotta play a guessing game a lot of times, not knowing how much fuel is in that. Also, it's this big metal container, and I take a plastic bottle for this that weighs next to nothing. So for me, I think unless weather just strictly makes it difficult to use an alcohol stove, I think I'm just gonna stick with alcohol stoves moving forward. Another thing that I am done with when I go hiking are trucker hats. Instead, I'm gonna start using the Outdoor Research Swift Cap. Went on a trip with my buddy Josh Mannon just a couple weeks ago down to the Smoky Mountains, and on the way down he showed me this hat that he bought, this Outdoor Research hat that just breathes so much better than any trucker hat he's ever had. And so I decided I need to check these things out. So if you take a look at this hat, one of the great things about it, you can see all of the mesh right through here, just how nice the mesh is. Also, what's great is the top of the hat lifts away from this inner mesh so that you can see really well just how good that mesh looks. I mean, you can see right through this thing. Basically what this hat allows for is better movement of air over your head. And when you're getting hot, one of the places where heat likes to escape your body is through your head. And so when you have it covered up with something that's a little heavier, that's restricting the ability for that heat to be released, it allows you to overheat quicker. And as you know, a few weeks ago, I dealt with overheating on the trail, got heat exhaustion, and had to come off the trail. And so something like this is fantastic just to give the ability for that heat to release better from my head. And also, this hat weighs next to nothing. It's extremely comfortable, and like I said, it just breathes so well. And so I'm gonna be wearing this Swift cap moving forward on all my backpacking trips. So the next item that I'm not gonna use anymore is the Aegis Max sleeping bag. I like the sleeping bag, it's really comfortable and all of that, but it's not that I'm just not gonna use this sleeping bag anymore. I'm not using sleeping bags anymore. I've just decided that sleeping bags are not for me. I don't like the restriction of not being able to move around inside of it. Especially in a hammock, sleeping bags are nearly impossible to sleep in. I tried using this almost as a pseudo quilt in my sleeping bag, and it just never really was all that comfortable, and it didn't work well for me. I gave it a shot, didn't work out for me. I am 100% moving forward, quilts only. Even in a tent, the entire Sheltoe trace, I use the Enlightened Equipment 20-degree Revelation quilt. I like the idea of being able to open the quilt up and use it as a giant blanket when I'm out in the backcountry. And so for me, I am done using sleeping bags. Another thing I'm done with, and I can't believe I'm gonna say this, but I have to say it. I'm done with Darn Tough socks. I've done a lot of trips where I've had to deal with blisters on my feet. My feet sweat profusely wearing these socks. They're just not a sock that for me works really well. And I thought maybe it was my shoes, so I went from Merrell Moabs to Ultra Lone Peaks to Speed Cross 4s, and now I'm wearing some shoes that I love completely, the Mad River TRs, but I just found that every time I wore the Darn Tough socks, it just seemed like I was more prone to blistering. Now I know this isn't everybody else's thing, that's not something they deal with, it's just something that I deal with. But my Darn Tough socks for short hikes were fine, but if I went any distances over 10 miles, it was like almost like clockwork that I was going to blister. Several months back, I started wearing Injinji socks, and I have not blistered once since using these. I started using them probably back in December, pretty exclusively, except for my winter trip up to Wisconsin. But outside of that, I've never blistered. I don't get hot spots, my feet don't sweat as bad, and you would think having something between your toes would cause more sweat, but it honestly doesn't. These socks have just been a lifesaver for me. A lot of people really love Darn Tough socks. They have a great warranty, and they're durable. They're made of incredible material, but for me, the Injinji socks seem to just treat my feet better. So, I'm done with Darn Tough socks. And one more piece of gear that I am not using anymore, I'm done with it, is my ULA CDT Backpack. If you remember, I got the backpack late last year, did a video about my new gear that I was gonna use for the year. That backpack was in there. It's one of the coolest looking backpacks in the history of mankind, but it just never really worked for me. And so I actually sold the backpack, and it's gonna be at someone's home right before this video drops. I really hope he enjoys that backpack and loves it. He was specifically wanting to get his hands on a CDT. I'm hoping he enjoys the backpack, but for me, I've decided I'm gonna be moving back to my good old faithful ULA Ohm 2.0. I did a review on this backpack not too long ago. That video is gonna be right up here. You can click on that and check it out. This is a phenomenal backpack. I've now been using this one for a little over 2 years, and I love it. And I think I'm just gonna go back to this and stick with it for a while until I can find something that maybe piques my interest. If you found any value in this video whatsoever, be sure to give it the old thumbs up. If you didn't like it, give it the thumbs down. I don't tend to judge people. I might judge you if you give me a thumbs down. If you want to, you can go over to Instagram at this address right up here and check out all the things that are going on with my hikes that I'm going on, different trips that I'm doing, different gear that I'm doing, and for updates on the backpacking podcast. There are going to be more podcasts showing up as live streams on this channel in the future, so be looking out for those. But until next time, stay strong, hike long, and I'll catch you on the next go-around. The BRS weighs next to nothing. The Pocket Rocket, I can't even talk right now. For a long time, all I'd ever use was canister stoves. I'd use this, I can't even say BRS now. Pocket Rocket, why can't I say Pocket Rocket? Why can't I say it? Pocket Rocket 2. Let's do it one more time. Start writing scripts for this stuff. Let's do that again. Oh, wife's hair. Gosh dang, wife's hair. What the heck? It's like all over the CDT back.